Today, we're diving into a really powerful, maybe even a little counterintuitive idea: the alchemy of robotic repetition. It's a method for changing your world that pretty much goes against everything you've probably heard. Just think about that for a second. We're always told that to make a real change, you've got to have this burning passion, right? That you have to feel it with every fiber of your being. But what if that just wasn't true? And let's go a layer deeper. What if you didn't have to fight that nagging little voice in your head, the one that's always whispering, "This is fake," or "This is never going to work"? What if you could just bypass that doubt completely? Yeah, no more forcing feelings you don't actually have. No more struggling to believe. What if the most powerful tool we have is something that's almost boring? That's it. Simple, steady, almost mechanical repetition. See, we're not talking about a roaring fire here, but more like a constant, quiet drip of water that can literally reshape the hardest stone. This is the heart of what we're getting into today. All right, so let's put a name to this whole concept. We're talking about something called robotic affirmations. And yeah, I know, it sounds a little strange, but trust me, the logic behind it is absolutely rock solid. So here's the official definition. The key words you really want to focus on are neutral and without trying. It's all about taking the pressure completely off. You're not trying to convince yourself of anything. You're simply stating a phrase over and over again. No drama, no desperation. And here are some really classic examples. Notice how they're just simple, clear, declarative statements. You could literally be repeating, "I am secure," while you're washing the dishes, or "I always win," while you're out for a walk. The activity doesn't matter one bit. The repetition is what's doing all the work. Okay, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds way too simple to actually be effective, right? Well, there's a fascinating reason why this mechanical approach can be way more powerful than those high-emotion methods. Let's dig into the science behind this magic. This little chart just lays out the difference perfectly. On the left, you've got the old-school high-effort methods trying to force a feeling, fighting with your own doubt. It's exhausting. But on the right, you have the robotic approach. It doesn't fight doubt, it just goes right around it. The goal isn't to convince your mind, it's to saturate it. I absolutely love this analogy because it's just so perfect. Trying to change belief with one massive emotional push is like trying to crack a boulder with a single punch. It's draining, and honestly, it usually doesn't work. But this method, it's like that persistent drip of water. Each repetition is one tiny drop. It seems like nothing at first, but over time, it completely changes the entire landscape. And here it is, the crucial point. Your subconscious mind learns through repetition. I mean, it's how you learned your own name, your first language, even the fears you have. It doesn't sit there and question what it hears over and over again. It just accepts it as a familiar pattern. And eventually, what's familiar starts to feel true. Okay, so you're repeating your phrase. What happens next? Well, the change doesn't just suddenly appear in the outside world overnight. It actually begins inside of you, creating this ripple effect that eventually transforms everything else around you. You can actually see how this process builds, step by step. It starts with that consistent repetition, which starts to saturate your subconscious. Then pretty soon, you notice this internal shift. You're just calmer, less reactive. That inner calm then leads you to make different decisions, naturally, not because you're forcing them. And finally, your external world starts to rearrange itself to mirror that new internal state. To everyone else, it looks like magic, but to you, it just feels inevitable. So you get the what and the why. Now, let's get to the most important part, the how. This is your practical, no-nonsense guide to putting this technique to work for you starting, like today. And it really is as simple as these 5 steps. First, pick one phrase, just one, not 10. Repeat it for about 10 or 20 minutes at a time. A great way to do this is while you're doing some mundane task that doesn't take a lot of brain power. Remember, stay neutral. You're a robot here. And above all else, be consistent. That daily practice is what gives those water drops their power. Now, this number is up here to set a realistic expectation. You might end up repeating a single phrase 10,000 times before it really, truly lands and becomes a part of you. This is not about getting instant results, it's about persistence. It is a marathon, not a sprint. And as you're doing this, it's so important to have the right mindset. Think of this as a calm background soundtrack to your life, not something you obsess over. And this is critical. Stop looking outside for proof that it's working. The moment you stop needing to see the evidence is the moment the real shift starts to speed up, because you're not coming from a place of neediness anymore. As we start to wrap this up, I want to leave you with this idea. This technique isn't just some tool to manifest things. It's a tool to fundamentally change your own self-concept. You're not just repeating words to get a result. You are repeating words to become the person who naturally has that result. Because in the end, that's the ultimate secret, isn't it? Repetition builds your identity, and your identity is the blueprint that shapes your reality. So the final question isn't about what you can get, but who are you choosing to become? One quiet repetition at a time.